Friends, it is time for a confession. All of the reporters and the pundits and the commentators and the columnists and the bloviators who dismissed Donald Trump, who refused to engage with Donald Trump, who just kind of wished the whole Trump phenomenon would go away, well, one by one, they are now having to admit the error of their ways. They're having to ask for forgiveness. They're having to explain themselves as to why they did not, whether they like Trump or don't like Trump, grapple with what has been the story of the 2016 presidential campaign. And the latest one is Mark Leibovich. You may know him as the author of This Town. He's a sardonic writer for the New York Times, a very talented writer who is out now with a piece for the New York Times Magazine. As some of the more elite outlets in the media universe are having to now grapple with the Trump phenomenon. And Leibovich says this: initially, I dismissed him as a nativist clown, a chief perpetrator of birtherism, by the way. I wouldn't sully myself by getting close to Donald Trump. I doubted he would even run. Leibovich goes on to say that I figured if Trump did run, his conspiracy mongering, reality show orientations, and garish tabloid sensibilities would make him unacceptable to the polite company of American politics and mainstream media. And so I felt proud and honorable about my decision. Except, Mark, the decision was wrong. And I give you credit for not only eventually getting around to profiling Trump, but to admitting that you yourself were just, off base on this. And again, this doesn't mean that Leibovich is suddenly a big Trump fan or any of the others, but it does show you how deeply ingrained the anti-Trump animus was among many of those who purport to bring you political news. And so Leibovich goes on to spend some time with Trump. He flies around on the plane, and he makes the observation that, and this is a guy who profiled Hillary Clinton and had to go through these torturous negotiations about just getting access for a sit-down with the former First Lady, whereas Trump, has basically made himself available to every outlet on the planet, and that has proved, I think, a great boon to his campaign. And so this, I think, kind of gets at the heart of the Trump appeal, which is if you don't like the media establishment, if you don't like the political establishment, if you don't like the Democrats, and particularly if you don't like the Republicans or think that the Republicans haven't delivered what they have promised, which we saw some of that reflected in the reaction to John Boehner stepping down as House Speaker. And if you kind of feel like the politicians aided and abetted by the media culture, come around every 4 years, make all kinds of promises that they never keep, then it's easier to understand why Donald Trump, brash, bombastic, successful businessman, billionaire, a guy who absolutely sort of flouts the rules, won't play by the rules, and likes to insult people, whether they're journalists or rival candidates, why that would have a kind of a visceral appeal to many people in this country. Now, I don't know whether the Trump phenomenon is going to continue at this level. Certainly, the race seems to be tightening somewhat. I talked about this on the Kelly File, how Ben Carson is almost now in a statistical tie, at least in the Wall Street Journal NBC poll with Donald Trump, how Marco Rubio might be moving up, how Carly Fiorina, the third non-politician in the group, has certainly surged compared to the asterisk that she was when she started. But finally, even the most elitist precincts of the media elite are feeling the need to explain and engage and trying to psychoanalyze Donald J. Trump.